Good evening, everybody. I'm your host, Johnny, for the Johnny Anonymous Podcast.
All right, everybody. I'm going to get right into this morning's show. I apologize. Again, there's not going to be much editing going on. I am actually boarding the plane, so we're going to do one quick show, and the topics were kind of laid out for me by a couple of other people that are going to be guests, and we're just going to get right into it. And I'm going to start talking about the seems to be this huge debate whether addiction is actually a disease or not. And let me pull my mic a bit closer here, and hopefully you guys can hear me good. I'm almost sick of hearing this, because I know such an overwhelming amount of data and science and research. So I'm gonna try to break a little bit of that down for you guys today, so we can just get that out of the way, and then you guys can argue about that for however long you want. But I'm gonna smack the law down, if you will. So one of the things, people always say, why can't you just stop? Why can't you just stop? And the answer to that is you just can't. If you could, you would. Do you think, honestly, people want to go out of their way to destroy the lives of their family and their friends? And deep down inside, nobody wants to truly do that. And nobody really wants to kill themselves. A lot of times it starts with emotional pain, and they turn to the soothing effects of drugs and alcohol. And a lot of time you don't know what trauma or pain that person went to that led them to use. For me, it was sports injuries and prescribed Oxycontins, and that's where it started. And eventually it developed into a full-fledged hold that it had over me. And now years down the road, that's all I research and that's all I do. I've come to follow some great scientists in the world. Dr. Nora Volkow from NIDA, who has dedicated her entire life's research to addiction, and also Dr. Gabor Mate from Vancouver. Now, some of the really interesting components that are going on in that research is that we now know that it's not a moral failing. So what ends up happening is there's genes inside the body, and everybody knows this. There's a genetic makeup inside the body, and they've actually been able to go into the region, specific regions within the strains, and identify and isolate the addiction gene, the gene which they feel is responsible for addiction. And this is a study called epigenetics. So these are geneticists, and this new study is called epigenetics, and it's got something to do with the delta phos-B receptor. And so what happens is either through environmental influences, say I'm an addict and my ex-wife is an addict, my daughter is inherently at risk of carrying this genetic mutation. Now, the mutation can express itself in an on or off position, if you will. And there are certain environmental influences that can express that genome to turn on. One being environmental. Growing up around addiction, or always being surrounded by addiction, there's a good chance that variation of the on-off expression will turn on, and that child will be more susceptible to developing addiction-like behaviors. Second thing is chronic exposure to the drug, or a drug, and sugar being a drug, video games being a drug, sex being a drug, not just substance abuse. So, the research that's being done supports that kids that have addictive behaviors or who have been predisposed to these genetic makeup can activate this addiction gene, and who are later at risk of becoming addicted to things like cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, caffeine, those sorts of stimulants. And it kind of brings me to my further point, which is the dopamine releasing pleasure reward system. So science has now supported conclusively that it is the dopamine releasing pleasure reward system that is activating these gene sequences in the body. So an overuse or over moderation of anything, you are at risk of activating these genes in your children. So by giving your kids copious amounts of sugar and copious amounts of video games, and just letting them run out of control and do whatever they want, and letting them activate those dopamine reward systems over and over and over and over and over again, well, my friend, that is setting your friend up to become a drug addict. Everything in moderation, because when we go into recovery, the first thing that we learn is to find patience and to not seek instant gratification, because it's the instant gratification that led us to becoming addicts. Sorry. And I'm finding now that my addiction has kind of turned from, maybe not always wanting drugs, but I went through a period of where I had an extremely large amount of sex. And sex was like almost better than dope for me at some points. And I realized that I was just abusing sex. And then it was, maybe prescribed medications that really had no effects like the other drugs did. Food, sugar, I could get addicted to the gym, I can get addicted to books, I can get addicted to reading, I can get addicted to researching. And I'm not talking like normal people, like I'm talking like stay up for days doing research on something completely insignificant. I could go one page in on Google. It's being this is probably the attention deficit in me, and then next thing you know, I got 27 windows in, and it's 6.5 hours later. I'm like, oh yeah, I was on this first window. So we really have to watch what it is that we do. We have to be aware of some of the behaviors, because they do manifest themselves into all sorts of things that I haven't even got a chance to list yet. But trust me, it gets pretty crazy. The other thing we really want to look at is epigenetics. Epigenetics is right now the emerging science that's going on, and it's just absolutely incredible what Norbert Wokel is doing. I issue you to guys to check it out. I'll try to put some links in the comments below when I get some time. You guys can check out some of her work. You can probably YouTube her. She's done a whole bunch of good speaking. They're doing a lot of neural mapping with MRI imaging and some pretty heavy other imaging, and looking at the prefrontal cortex and the prefrontal lobes in children when they're given sugar versus when a heroin addict or a cocaine addict are injecting, and the responses in the brain are almost identical. So imagine what we're doing to our society as a whole. If the brain's pleasure reward system is giving just as much dopamine to the brain as a heroin or crack addict to a kid eating a candy bar, I mean, shit, candy's not good for you. I just figured it out. The other thing I want to do is we're gonna look at neuroplasticity. And I think neuroplasticity is something that's really important in recovery, rewiring the brain through things like positive affirmations. I was blessed enough to come across something called Neuro-Linguistics Programming, or NLP. It's the way in which you self-talk to yourself. I'd really like to get in and do an episode on that. And see where that brings us, and see where the audience likes about that. I really think that would help. It's got a lot to do with gratitude, and then taking your gratitude list and putting them more into use. So, it's one thing to write a gratitude list, but it's another thing to practice that gratitude list on a daily basis and daily remind yourself. Sometimes I used to plaster mine on the back of my door, have one in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth. I have one in my car on the dashboard. If you got a family, you tape your family with it and remind yourself why you're doing this. And also, I want to talk about some of the things that people are going through in early recovery. And I want people to reach out to us and ask us how they got through it, because I know that when you first come in, I know what that feeling feels like. And you feel so alone and hopeless, and you feel like those feelings are never going to go away. And I've developed quite a few coping skills, and I got a great group of people around me in our production crew, and I got a lot of friends around the world that, we can help set something up for you that's more holistic, and try to get you through those withdrawals and back onto your feet. And I think that's a pretty good indicator of what's to come in the next couple weeks, the next couple shows. We also we want to talk about detox versus like if you had cancer, and what's going on with the detoxes, specifically here in Ontario. That's why I'm really curious to get on this plane tonight and land in Vancouver, because I'm gonna go walk all around their detoxes and film it and report right back to you guys. And because we all know what our detox is like here on 10 Adams Street. It's a 100-year-old house with a couple bedrooms, with a population of 1 million people trying to get in there. I want to see what they got going on in Vancouver, and I'm really curious about that. But later on throughout, probably I want to say before Christmas, maybe after Christmas, you can expect probably Brandon and Steve-O from Jackass have reached out, and we're trying to arrange some dates to bring them in as a guest. And we're going to start setting up some coast-to-coast podcasts. I'm going to be bringing in some people via Skype, and then once we get to Vancouver, we get the studio set up, then I'll be bringing people back into the studio where we can do some live interviews. But by all means, if you guys want to, if you guys know a guest or you want to be a guest, we can send you the package out, and you guys can come to the show via Skype. And we're going to talk a little bit about news and further develop the show as it goes. Like I said, I wanted to keep you guys updated as to what we're doing, and kind of honing the craft as we go. We're more than willing to take suggestion, and we feel that you the viewers should be part of this journey. This is who I'm doing it for. I'm doing this for Canada. I'm doing this for you people. I'm doing it for the people that are dying. I'm doing it for the families that have lost people. I'm doing it for the families that are watching their family members struggle. And it's just about time to get out there and get active, and I'm getting across Canada because I'm making sure that every region of Canada has access to quality treatment before it's too late, because the death toll it's astronomical. And meet some beautiful people along the way, and you guys can look forward to an exciting year, that's for sure. I'm Johnny with the Johnny Anonymous podcast, and make sure you click like, share, tell all your friends about us, and one love.